positions and perhaps staff them with prosecutors, paralegals, and investigators. And one thing that needs to be done now before the problem gets out of hand is making sure that Philadelphia does not become a hub of human trafficking. So really, I would like to know exactly what's being done about that, because within that, there's the trafficking of children for sexual exploitation. And this is not something that is just made up. It's happening in Philadelphia.
Hear a lot about that all around the country.
Sure.
Is it a specific problem in Philadelphia?
Can I answer that, Larry? I'm glad to see my Republican opponent didn't start that one with it's caused by political corruption. This is October.
They didn't say that.
Yeah,
I don't think.
October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and then what can the DA's office do? I'm glad to be hosting this Saturday our inaugural safety summit for women and children to talk just about that in partnership with Women Organized Against Abuse, Women Organized Against Rape, the Department of Human Services, working to have seminars on how people can get out of domestic abuse relationships, how children can be protected. I receive awards from these organizations for being a champion for what we're doing to protect children. And again, what's important to understand, Larry, the majority of children that are abused, either physically or sexually, 90% of the culprits are people that the family knows. That's very important for the public to know. So yes, the DA's office can do something. Yes, we are doing something. We have a very vibrant family violence and sexual assault unit. And I'm very proud of the men and women that work there as prosecutors and investigators and law clerks, because those are some of the most emotionally draining cases to handle. I did that for 6 months as a young assistant DA. And so we're doing a lot to address domestic violence, to also have diversionary programs for some of those men so they can learn how not to put their hands on people they profess to love. That's a very crucial aspect as well.
Now, you know, it's kind of interesting. You're at a little disadvantage here in the conversation because you don't have a public record that we know of, okay? When I mean record, a public service record, you were an assistant DA for 8 years, I believe, right? Somewhere around there. So tell us a little bit about you and your background. I know what you did. What can you talk about that you've done that might be innovative or different?
Yeah, I was at the District Attorney's Office here in Philadelphia, originally under Lynn Abraham. I was proud to serve the city from 2003 up until December of 2011. And while at the District Attorney's Office, I did everything from municipal court, handling felony preliminary hearings, misdemeanor trials, all the way up to jury trials and attempted murder, economic crimes.
Did you do corruption?
Gun court. Well, I was never assigned to that unit, and if I was, I sure as heck would have shook some stuff up and done something about it.
Again, wait a second, ADA would have been able to take the lead on corruption?
Well, I don't think we should downplay the effect that an individual ADA can do. I think we shouldn't just poo-poo that away and think that's just a prosecutor. No, these prosecutors fight the good fight. They do God's work every single day. Absolutely. If you ask me to do anything at the DA's office to increase the quality of life for folks who live in this city, absolutely I would do that. And I think that every single ADA can make a difference, and they do make a difference. Now, while at the District Attorney's Office, I had the opportunity also to be in gun court and also gun violence task force, where I prosecuted straw purchasing, and that was a great experience as well. But then again, there is a lot to be done. And I think that getting awards and stuff like that's nice, but at the end of the day, it does not deter Philadelphia from becoming a hub of human trafficking. And I'm not talking like a politician or somebody who's going to frame awards and hang them on the wall. I'm talking as a parent of 2 kids. And I think it is despicable that that's happening in this city, and nothing really is being done about it except for talking. Now, what I would say is this. I've personally identified a good 4 or 5 positions at the DA's office that I think are absolutely unnecessary. They'd be nice to have, but when the city's...
What would that be?
Well, community relations, $71,000 salary. There's another one, I think it's employee enrichment for about $76,000. There's another one who's a liaison to some organization or group, it may be clergy, for $93,000.
Isn't communications the beginning of understanding?
It is.
If you're trying to get community help. Sometimes if you do a community relations deal, you may save yourself money in the long run.
I think that...
You're not suggesting that these hires are corruption hires, are you?
No, what I'm saying is that they're unnecessary. And I think that it's also bad for office morale when ADAs are making, what, $48,000 starting off with the school loans that they have. And folks who are not in the trenches, in the courtrooms, are making much more than them. But if I may just finish real quick,
Sure.
it does go back. You know, why not have a unit for, you know, to investigate and prosecute human trafficking? You know, City Council had hearings, I believe it was about a year ago or so, where they talked about this becoming a very big problem. But really, I mean, talk is cheap. We really need to attack this problem before we become a hub, and that's what's happening.
You know, it's interesting. They used to say years ago during the Rizzo administration and the Street administration and the Green administration that they were cracking down on sex crimes, all and the DAs, everybody else. But yet you have an active industry here. How do you discern between entertainment and crimes? Certainly.
So let me just correct the record that my Republican opponent is just unaware. He kept saying we're not doing anything. So he's unaware. Zane Memminger is the U.S. Attorney, the District Attorney of Philadelphia, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, the FBI. We recently hosted an event just on human trafficking. What my Republican opponent doesn't know is that we're not just talking. Our office was one of the first to receive a grant from the Department of Justice. Joe McCool was an assistant DA. He recently left. I'm very thankful he helped us get a grant from the federal government so that we can go after human trafficking. But we also have a dawn court so that we can help those women that are part of that industry to get out and to get the help.
A dawn court?
Dawn court. So that's a court. It's a diversionary courtroom for women that are sex workers, so that instead of just prosecuting them and not prosecuting the Johns, that we're getting those women help with addiction services, with counseling, professional alternatives, okay? But let's go back, though. You asked my Republican opponent about his history of accomplishment and leadership, and there was none. I've been the DA for 4 years. I was the Inspector General for 2 years.
But the DA does have a lot more power.
A lot more. I was the assistant DA, but listen, my whole life, though, he has nothing he can point to. I was the president and chairman of a civic association. I'm a major in the United States Army Reserves. Philadelphians have known me from when I was a president of the student government at Penn State for standing up for justice, doing the right thing, being accountable to the public, and leadership, and making tough decisions when they're necessary. It'd be almost irresponsible to give someone a budget of over $40 million who's never been the leader of anything.
How do you respond to that? Right.
I think Mr. Williams is thinking a little too highly of himself, with all due respect. To say that I've done nothing in my life is, quite frankly, just disrespectful, and it's just another example of a man with power just trying to beat up on an opponent. Now, I'm a father of 2 kids. I work 2 and 3 jobs to pay my bills. I do the right thing. And I'm a taxpayer, and I do get involved. Any chance I get. Now, what I do have that's over Mr. Williams, I may not have the powerful friends or the amount of power that he has, but you know, I'm here at a debate as a common citizen. And quite frankly, all the common folks that I have met are tired of that arrogance. Common people are for me. Just because I don't have the awards to put up on the wall and to frame them, there's something to be said about men with power who have humility. And unfortunately, our city hall and right now our district attorney's office are staffed by folks who lack that humility to make the right decisions that are for the people and not for themselves. Which goes again back to my earlier point. I think incumbency is a very dangerous thing to Philadelphia democracy. And you get this, and that's not right. So he can beat up on me as much as he wants, but I do represent the common man out there who lives paycheck to paycheck, does the right thing, plays by the rules. And if I make a comment about Dawn Court, I think that is a good program. However, I would go even further. If you really want to go after human trafficking and then the exploitation of children, why aren't we having these folks cooperate in addition to being in Dawn Court? We need to really start investigating. And I would loosen up, at least from what I've counted, and my math may be off, at least $500,000 in unnecessary jobs at the DA's office. Why not start a unit for, anti-human trafficking? That is money better spent.
So Larry, if I could address that.
Yeah, quickly.
I wasn't disrespecting my Republican opponent. I was bringing to fact the truth of a lack of leadership and service in the leadership capacity. And we're here to talk about an election on November the 5th to be the district attorney of the 5th largest city in America, not is he a taxpayer? And that's a good thing. And I'm glad he's paying his taxes. That's a great thing. We're talking about, is he capable of running the district attorney's office? And he was a subpar assistant district attorney, and he could tell you that.
Well, how could you say that?
He was 2 years in the municipal court unit. You're supposed to be there for a year. He was then sent back to juvenile court for another year. That is his record. I mean, he's not talking about that. And if you want to talk about, am I committed? Yes, I'm committed to hiring people to work in community action centers, to engage the public. That's less than 1/2 of 1% of our salaries, and we have to do that. Philadelphians want to make sure that the system is fair, and to do that, we have to help educate them and communicate them and listen to them where they are. And I'm proud of that.
We'll be right back because I want you to answer that because it's only fair. We'll be right back after this. Seth Williams, Danny Alvarez, in a very quiet political season. We have some fireworks here tonight and candor, and the district attorney has suggested that you were a, quote, subpar assistant district attorney. Would you like? I think you deserve.
I heard, yes. Well, that, quite frankly, lie is about as bad as vending machine cologne. And Larry, let me tell the voters why.
Vending machine cologne.
Yeah, it's like jet fuel in a bottle. Really, you don't want to try it, Larry. But let me tell you something. While I was under Lynn Abraham, God bless her, she did a fantastic job as district attorney. She was tough on crime. While as an assistant for Lynn Abraham, I was promoted time and time again. And I got my merit raises, and I actually prosecuted in the gun violence task force. They don't put shabby DAs in there. That's serious business. And let me set the record straight. At the time that Mr. Williams' administration decided to give me the business and move me to the Child Support Enforcement Unit, which I would say should not be a punishment for any ADA.
So you worked under him?
I did for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
Did Charlie Earl keep you an MC for 2 years?
If I may.
That was before me, right?
If I may.
Did he keep you there for 2 years?
If I can finish.
Was he the DA?
If I can finish.
Okay.
Well, who was the DA then?
It was Lynn Abraham was
If
the
I can
DA when you were
finish.
kept there for 2 years.
If I can finish.
Okay. Let's hear you finish.
The funny thing about that is that Mr. Williams, or whoever his, folks making those decisions for him, they sent me over there at the very time that I was starting a union. That's right, a union. A Republican, because you keep mentioning I'm a Republican, I'm proud to be a Republican. I was starting a union at the district attorney's office. Now, I find his timing to be impeccable, quite frankly, that they did this to me at the very time I started to get union cards signed. And of course, the effect was very good, because once I was sent over to a building away from the rest of the office, people no longer wanted to join a union. So I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that I believe the Williams administration was union busting. Another thing, if I may
This is funny.
add,
I mean, this is the first time I've ever heard of him trying to start a union. I thought he was going to answer why, under Lynn Abraham, he was kept in the municipal court unit for 2 years.
Did you have him moved?
What's that?
Did you direct him to be moved?
It was brought to my attention. Mark Gilson was his chief in the major trials unit, and we had to purge. We had to get rid of people that were underperforming. And 3 people were fired for underperforming. But people like Danny. Danny's a nice guy. He's as a Christian man, he's a family-oriented guy. But they had a come to Jesus moment with him and said, look, you're underperforming. You can't cut it in the courtroom, in the trial room. We're going to find a place where maybe you can continue to be a champion in a different way and use your skills in a different way.
Nothing wrong with the children's program.
That's a great thing. We have to have good people there. But I thought he was going to answer why under Lynn Abraham.
So now we know that he did work under you.
Yes, certainly.
Okay.
If I may, because of the fact that a lot of people weren't leaving the office under Lynn Abraham, they had to keep other people who were seasoned prosecutors to help train the prosecutors that would come in. But then again, at the end of the day, your timing is impeccable. That is union busting in my book. And quite frankly, that was made clear to many other ADAs who were interested in organizing a union. They got cold feet. So the effect was very good. Now, if I may, in regards to performance, Mr. Gilson never brought to my attention any kind of lack of performance. That's absurd.
We have witnesses on that. First assistant was there at that meeting. But we're here to talk about the future. I'm saying,
let me just
we're going to elect the district attorney. I was the chief of a unit created to go after repeat offenders.